Islam family. Peace and love. I want to go in today real quick on unity is the key. And why, if we all come together and put our remedies together, we would really already have everything we need, or we do have everything we need um, to a certain extent. And I'm going to get into that. Um, I want to bring up two basic concepts. And this is international law. You know, everyone knows this pretty much. But the first one is the right to revolution. So you could say that the misnomer African American, Negro, Black, coloreds over here in America are the most ripe for a revolution. Um, with dealing with the politics that's going on here versus all over the globe. Um, some people even say and estimate that these other places are waiting for us in particular. Um, because of how ripe we are for revolution, we have the moral right, you could say, due to slavery, Jim Crow, and all of these things, more so than almost anywhere on the planet. Um, so there's a few ways of going about it, and I'm gonna break it down here. Basically, the first one is to revolt. There's a couple different definitions of revolt. Um, Most people, when you would say revolt, they think of an armed revolt, um, which I would say we're not quite ready for, or a coup d'état, um, which the coup d'état is a military takeover of the government, um, versus the first version you could say would be more like if y'all familiar with history, France chopping off the people chopping off the heads of all of their leaders due to, what they call mismanagement of the government funds and things of that sort. And, that's a long lesson in itself. But what I really want to more focus on is, and here the definition that I have of revolt. And that's to renounce allegiance to a government, which technically, by proclaiming our nationality as Moors, um, we would be doing that, which is leaving the government. Um, but for another government, which is the second one on here, I put leave the government, but I should have put leave the government for another, but I put proclaim your nationality under there. So, um, in the sense of revolt, you could say that is renouncing your allegiance um, to a nation or a government, but that will put you into a stateless point, which is why the next one is proclaiming your nationality. Um, because renouncing your allegiance and then leaving the government for another one, like I said, um, is really the key in the right to revolution. Like, that is the remedy universally in international law, which is why I wanted to bring that up. But the next um, part I want to get into is becoming a nation or a sovereign state, what it takes for that. So that one is pretty clear, like that we have, you can say pretty much every single one of these elements down to a certain extent. Um, so as Moors, divine or defined, excuse me, territory. For Moorish Americans, we do define our territory exactly as being the continent North, Central, and South America. So um, that, along with what the prophet did in 1928 when he got the land mandate, um, basically it gave us the authority over our defined territory. We just we need to get all of these steps together um, to be able to make the claim and have and show proof on that. Um, the next one, permanent population. We do have a permanent population of Moors, and mostly the proclaimed Moors, I'll say, um, that proclaim that they're Moorish American or American Moor, stay in North America. But there are many other nations, corporate nations, um, and other peoples that would be considered Moorish American on this landmass that would be, um, you could say Moorish by bloodline, but I would want to define more clearly as being non-European, being Americans, um, indigenous to this land. So that kind of leads to the next portion, where we need to really um, work on the most right now, and that's the government. And basically, it's an essential core independent government. So we don't have a core government. We have a lot of different Moorish um, governments, you could say, operating uh, at North America mostly. So it's it's a hodgepodge. There's no collective one central core independent government at this point. You know, we have the Moorish Science Temple. Um, there's the Sultanate that Assyrian them set up. You have the Washita Moors. There's Mirakush. Um, Sunil and those brothers out there operating um, in the Washington area, I believe, around those territories. There's several local governments. You know, we operating out here in Texas. We have our temple set up properly, and have jurisdiction out here. So you know, depending on where these different groups are, um, it's more of local government, but not we're not all interconnected and united, which is why unity is the key. Because once we get all of those together, um, you'll say that we have everything that we need, pretty much. So that leads us to the next one, which is a constitution. As Moors, we had a zodiac constitution. You could say that there are other Moorish constitutions out there. Um, Another one I can think of off top. Um, I know the Nuwapians have a Moorish constitution. I didn't name them earlier, but that's another group that could possibly have their own local jurisdictions operating. I'm not exactly sure, how those guys are set up, but they have all the potential. I can say that, at the very least. Um, Another one, getting international recognition. That one is well established for the Moors, as far as we have international treaties that are recognized, and the longest standing treaty being the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, um, which the United States recognizes as the longest standing treaty basically on the planet. So we don't need to go through the step of getting recognized. We're already recognized. It's just more if we don't have that essential core government that's independently working, because we have most of these steps already. Um, and even this last step, UN recognized. That's more of you could say, a commercial jurisdiction, the UN recognizing, but um, part of in the modern sense of what they call countries or sovereign nations or states, um, that's one of the things that is, you could say, a big deal, even though it's not 1,000% necessary. Um, you could say that we're already UN recognized as Moors for the simple fact that um, everything that they did based on the UN and status and things of that sort, they based on the 1928 Pan American Conference, which the Prophet came and brought our status. And they, even in the UN, confer um, what you could call diplomatic status on anyone that has what they call an ancient nationality, which would be the Moors, which is us. But um, even on a more modern or current era, I've heard and pretty much I've seen what I believe to be conclusive proof that the Washita Moors have a seat actually on the UN and are recognized, which some Nuwapians have tried to use also. I'm not sure if they're connected with that branch of Washita or if they're saying that they have one different, but I believe that they make the same claim. Um, and that needs to be researched a little bit further. But um, that further goes back to unity is the key. Um, if all of these local jurisdictions that are out here operating properly as a Moorish jurisdiction, um, we have to adopt all of these things that we're not all using as a collective to be able to truly get the remedy we're seeking. Um, so, so when the prophet was like, I brought you everything you need to save a nation, take it and save yourselves. He was right. He pretty much brought us through a lot of this stuff that either was historically ours or that he made efforts to set up to enable us to operate in this fashion. Um, but it was to the point where he couldn't give it all out. He said not even a half it was given. If it was, they'd went back to sleep in that era. But we're in a new time where we came with our eyes wide open, as he said. So now we need to be implementing all these things that he brought, as well as the things that he said that he didn't bring, and make the best of it. So when we implement all the tools that we have that we were given, um, and then all the other things that have come along since then, because there's a certain portion of Moors that don't want to bring any new information outside of what I would say is the prophet's canon, where he specifically taught this or spoke on this particular subject, um, even if there is other information on the subject, um, like nationality, straw man, commerce, things of that sort. He may have done and demonstrated some of these things, but because he didn't specifically break it down and say what he did, there are some people will say, well, it's not true. When what it is they don't want to look at the facts and really say, okay, well, yeah, the prophet didn't mention this in particularly, but I see where he was going with it. And these are the same people that are scared to continue on with the works and in the movement and to really be progressive. And you know, we're at an age of information and in the age of knowing, not in the age of belief. So it's time to put things into fruition. Is what my point is, and unity is the key to that. Because we have everything we needed, and a lot of this stuff can easily be done just with making proper contacts. So, um, if anybody has connections with any of these people, any of the Moors that are noble, righteous, and operating right in law with lawful process, have them reach out to me. You know, because we're trying to work with anybody who's being progressive in this day and age, and not people that are being stagnant. And it's just we're gonna pull enough people along that all the other ones will eventually have to jump on board. It'll be no choice once all the truth is out there when we get the real clean glass. And showing and proving in multiple jurisdictions, um, what we actually have the power to do, and that we are more than a nation. Not just talking, because that's what's going on. We have a lot of people that are just talking because we're not interconnected enough to be able to bring all our remedies together and get things done. But I don't want to leave y'all, on a negative note. So, like I say, unity is the key. There are things that have us divided, but we need to get past that. Islam, peace and love.